Hi viewers. Yes, today I'll be explaining about the Informatica architecture in this session. The uniqueness of this session would be relating the Informatica architecture with the day-to-day operations which you will be performing using Informatica Power Center tool. So hope this will be very much helpful for all the viewers who are very much interested to learn Informatica Power Center. First of all, before going to Informatica architecture, I would like to explain about the Informatica Power Center tool. Why do we use Informatica Power Center tool? Informatica Power Center tool will be used to extract the data from different sources and then transform the data depending upon the business rules and then load the data into data warehouse tables. So here, which is also called as ETL process. So this Informatica tool will be used to extract the data from different sources and then transform the extracted data depending upon the business rules which we receive from the customer and then load the data into data warehouse tables. So after this, now we all know why we use Informatica. Now I would like to explain about the architecture of the Informatica. The Informatica tool has been captured almost 30% of the market in the current market. Means we do have different tools which supports ETL process, but this particular Informatica tool has been captured 30% of overall market, and rest of the 70% we have many tools which supports ETL processing. So how, I think you know how important this particular Informatica tool in our day-to-day life. So now I would like to explain about the Informatica architecture. This Informatica, as I explained you previously, this Informatica will be used to extract the data from source and load it to target tables, which is data warehouse tables. So here, let's say this is our source and this is our target. So source, what is the source? So source might be different technological sources, like it might be messaging, or it might be web services, which is XMLs, or the source might be packaged tools, packaged applications, or flat files, or mainframe. Now, so these are all different technological sources, and the targets also same, like messages, web services, packaged applications, flat files, and mainframes. So now Informatica sits in between source and target. So what does Informatica contains? So there are two major components in Informatica, which is one is in Informatica Architecture. The two major components are four major components, which is the first one is client component, and then second one is repository service, third one is integration service, and there is one more service which is called reporting service. So now, what is client? So this client contains total 4 interfaces, which is the first one is repository manager, this will be used to create users, password, privileges, and folders. So whenever user interacts with the repository manager to create password, users, and folders, so this will be communicated to repository service, and then the repository service can see one more. I can put like repository database. So repository database will be there. That is repository database, which contains the metadata. So like you can say these are all metadata. I can say these are all metadata. So this repository service stores all the objects in a repository. So here, whenever user creates users, different passwords, privileges and folders will be communicated to repository service, and then all the objects will be stored in a repository database, which is called as metadata. And then the next tool is designer. This designer will be used to create mappings, which is used for ETL purpose, and which will be saved under repository. Whenever user creates mappings and then save the mappings, then it communicates. Whenever user saves the mapping, this will be stored in repository, and then it validates the system errors. If there is an error, then user will be prompted with the invalid mapping, and if there are no errors, then the mapping will be valid. So even this designer tool, what are the actions performed by user will be communicated to repository service, and then all the objects will be stored in a repository database. And the next tool under client, which is also called as interface, I can say, rather than tool, workflow manager. So workflow manager, I'll be explaining in detail about these interfaces. I'll show you the interfaces once I finish about this particular architecture and I'll relate this particular architecture with these interfaces. So this workflow manager, in workflow manager will be associating the mappings, whatever the mappings we created in designer using designer interface. So those mappings will be associated to the sessions. So we'll be creating a session, and then that session will be associated to the mapping, and we'll create a workflow which associates these sessions which we created in workflow manager. Okay, so now here, whenever a user creates workflow manager and then clicks on execute, once you create the workflow manager, once you create the workflow using sessions by associating the mapping, then user clicks on to execute the workflow or a session. So now once user clicks execute, this particular workflow manager will be interacted with the integration service. So what is integration service? This integration service will be this integration service is a communicator between workflow manager and the source and target data. So now once we execute the ETL sessions, then that will be interacted with the integration service, which in turn pulls the data from source and once the execution is completed, it loads the data to the target. So here this is source and this is target. So once we execute the session or a workflow, the data will be, this integration service interacts with the source data. So here, what is source data? Source data is an SQL database which is sitting below the Informatica layer. So here it pulls the source data from different tables and then transforms the data to the target tables. Now, so while after completion of this execution, so we have a reporting service, right? So this reporting service whenever the execution completes, then it generates a report. So all the logs, system files will be stored under repository, so reporting service. So this reporting service will be used to generate reports and logs. And how do we see these reports and schedules, bad jobs of the schedules, all these things? So we have one more interface to monitor the reports, which is called as workflow monitor. This workflow monitor will be used to see the progress and the reports which were generated while executing the workflows which we created in Workflow Manager. So these reports will be stored under integration service. It doesn't interact with the repository service, but it interacts with the integration service, and this will be stored under integration service on a operating system level. That means you can find the logs, reports under your system under integration service installation folder. Okay, so here as I told you, session logs, session log files will be created using reporting service, and this will be stored under integration service. OS level. So now this way, this is the total architecture of the Informatica. So now how do we relate this architecture with our day-to-day operations of Informatica 2? Okay, now I'll show you how these interfaces called repository manager, workflow designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor looks like. So now I'm going to my virtual box where the Informatica has been installed in my system. Now you see, so as I explained you, repository service. So this is a repository service which will be used by mostly repository manager and designer, workflow designer. So repository manager, this is the repository manager. Here, whenever we create a workflow, whenever we create a folder where it will be defined, it defines the sources, targets, and mappings. So this is the repository manager which will be used to create folders, users, and then privileges, all these things. So this repository manager generally used by administrator people. So the testing team or developers, they will be used very minimal, just create the folder and then create the mappings. So what is so this repository manager and generally interacts with the repository service. Okay, now what is a designer? So we can see the designer. This is the designer. You can navigate to the designer using designer tab here. So this is the designer where we will be creating the mappings. You can see here source. So there is a mapping which I have created where I have rotor transformation, and I think I have used rotor transformation. So this is the mapping designer where we can create mappings. So all these mappings. So how this will be related to the architecture? In architecture, as I told you, designer, whenever you create mappings, the objects of these mappings will interact with the repository service, and then those objects will be stored under repository database. So whenever you create the mappings, whenever user creates mappings, see here, I have created one table, and then I have created a source call fire, and then I have created a target table. So while creating these mappings, in background Informatica creates objects. So those objects will be stored under repository database. And then workflow manager. So from here, from design itself, we can click on workflow manager icon, then it opens workflow. So this workflow manager, this in workflow manager we generally create sessions and then workflow. So here you see I have created a session and then this is a workflow which is linked with each other. So this session is associated with the mapping, this mapping. So this particular mapping, I'm associating the mapping here with the session. So now whenever we execute so here I am saying start task, that means I am executing the workflow which I have created. So once we, as I told you here, once I execute this, once I click on execute, this interacts with the integration service. So where the integration service in turn pulls the data from source data, that means from here I'm using SQL Server. So where it pulls the data, integration service pulls the data from the source tables and then transforms the data and then it loads the data into target. So this integration service also called as ETL engine, so which is doing the extraction, transformation, loading process. And then workflow monitor, here whenever I start, so this is workflow monitor. Here you can see just now I run the session where it's successfully completed and it successfully completed the task. Here you see it's loaded the data as well. So if you want to see the this is task view, and also you can see the reports. So it will be created reports as well. So you can see the reports here. Meeting board log. Yeah. Here, get workflow log. So this is the workflow log in which we have completed the task. So once I run the log, so you can see it has transmitted the data to the target table. So you can see here. So now how this is related to the architecture. Here once I click on execute, this workflow monitor generates the reports using reporting service, so which is a reporting server. Okay, so this is the total Informatica Architecture. Hope everyone enjoyed the session. Hope it will be useful for all the beginners of the Informatica. So by this we have completed the Informatica Architecture. So in the next session probably I'll be explaining more about the transformation, how do we extract, transform and then load the data using Informatica. We do have different types of transformations while loading the data to satisfy the business rules. So I'll explain all this in the next session.